So if you are a Star Wars fan, I'm sure you've heard of Star Wars Battlefront. No, not Battlefield, you Battlefield fans, Battlefront. So in the years, EA has made a remake of the original Battlefront 1 and 2, but sadly there's no Battlefront 3. So Battlefront 1, the original one, was released in 2003, and that was like an original Battlefront, and I'm sure you heard it. I'm not even going to go over it in this video because there's no reason you would have clicked on this anyway, so let me just continue with this. So Bombastic actually made a video on why there's no Battlefront 3. I'll link it below, but like I said, we have 1 and 2. So in this video, I'm going to be doing something very dangerous. I'm going to be comparing the two. Dun, dun, dun. I'm going to put some dun, dun, dun music in the background. I don't know. So basically, here's how I'm going to be comparing them. I have chosen 5 aspects to compare of the 2 games, Battlefront 2015 and Battlefront 2017. So the first one is online game modes. The second 2 is gameplay and mechanics. The third one is offline capabilities. The fourth one is diversity of maps. So that's basically like is there more characters? So the diversity of the characters, the maps, the weapons, etc. Basically stuff like that. And the last one is basically just all-out enjoyability to play. So both games I thought were really good and definitely fun to play. Like, they were definitely a win. I definitely suggest if you haven't got them, it's not too late. Even though Battlefront 2015 came out in 2015, it says it in the name. I actually only got Battlefront 2015 in 2021. So yeah, 6 years after it released. I got the game this year, 6 years after it's released, and it's actually still really enjoyable to play. Now, one thing to say for my ranking is that I do not have the Xbox Live Gold, so I do not play online. So for the online game modes part, which I'm going to do in a couple seconds, be aware that all I'm hearing is rumors that I've heard and stuff that I've heard from YouTubers and stuff like that. But as far as I can know, I think I have a pretty good accurate count on what it could be. So, yes, today I'm going to be comparing them. So I'm going to get right into it. So the first one that I'm going to be doing is online game modes, as I just said. So Battlefront 1 and 2 are both pretty much online games. Like, you can play offline like I do, and it's actually really enjoyable, which I'll talk about later for offline capabilities. But most of the people play online. So you play online, you can play in teams, individual, with your friends. You can do online co-op, you can do offline co-op. You can basically do a lot of stuff online. Now, as far as I know, in Battlefront 1, there are a bunch of different game modes, like Droid Hunt, where the objective of your team is to capture as many droids as possible. Escape Pod Hunt, I don't know if it's called that. I'm just like, I know it's called something like that, but that's basically where you have to capture as many escape pods as possible. Heroes versus villains, which is basically one team plays the light side, one team plays the dark side, and the objective is to, I believe it's to take out the other team, and once you take out I don't really know how it works, but something like that, yeah. So there are a bunch of those different Battlefront for 1. Now for Battlefront 2, there are more of those stuff like supremacy and basically the same things. But I believe that they didn't really add much stuff that were new. It was mostly the same as Battlefront 2015. They did, as far as I've seen in videos that I've seen, it actually looks really cool to play online. And I feel that they're both pretty good and stuff like that. But honestly, if I were to rank them, I would give Battlefront 1 a 9.2 on 10 and Battlefront 2 an 8.9. So just to give you an idea, at the end I will be adding up the averages of everything to tell you what is the answer for which one I think is better. So that is solidly what I'm going to give it. I know both games are really good, and sadly I can't tell you from my own experience how to actually give it a ranking, but as far as I've heard and the videos that I've seen, both games have really cool online capabilities because they're online games, but sadly Battlefront 1 might have the edge over this because honestly I just kind of like all their game modes, supremacy, stuff like that. They're just all good game modes, so that's just what I'm going to give it. So the next thing is gameplay and mechanics. So gameplay and mechanics. The game has pretty solid mechanics. The firing mechanic and stuff like that might be a little tricky to get a handle of. Like in Battlefront 2015, the shooting mechanic and how your gun will overheat, that was a little confusing on how to create and how to do a cooling flush and stuff. I had to Google that to understand how to do it. So it's not really self-explanatory, but that feels like something that you kind of have to look up. But after that, I kind of understood it. I thought it was pretty good mechanics. The flying mechanics were also a little tricky. I also had to look up a video for that. But other than that, I think the jumping, I think that like in some games you might want to do a melee, but the game doesn't allow you to do melee. But in this game, you're allowed to do melees. I feel that there's a bunch of abilities that you're allowed to do. The mechanics are pretty good in this game. Battlefront 2017, on the other hand, okay, so let's talk about Battlefront 2017. for Battlefront 2017, it was a little easier to do a cooling flush than Battlefront 2015. I thought it was very complicated in Battlefront 2015, but in Battlefront 2017, they simplified it a little bit and made it easier to perform a cooling flush. You would still not be able to understand it just from watching, like, you wouldn't be able to understand it just from first-hand experience. You'd have to still look up a video on it, but I understand that's acceptable. You can't, it's, some stuff are not really self-explanatory. So I thought that mechanic was really good. But the thing is that in Battlefront 2017, as far as I know, in so far that I've played so far, and I've been playing for a little bit of a while, there is no ability to move, to transfer your energy from your weapons to your engines. There's no ability to do that. In Battlefront 2015, you were able to transfer your energy from either the engines or your weapons, or you could like balance it in the middle. So if you transfer more energy to the engines, you could go faster, but your weapons wouldn't be as powerful. And if you transferred more energy to the weapons, your guns would be more powerful, but you wouldn't fly as fast. So it was a little disappointing that there wasn't that mechanic, and I honestly thought that was really cool to just play around with that feature. Like, you're in a fight, oh, let me just put more power to my guns. I don't know. It was kind of cool, in my opinion. But as far as I know, they removed that feature, I guess because it was also a little complicated. People were getting confused. But I guess they just thought that they didn't need that. But still, definitely really cool mechanics. So in the final thing, I would give Battlefront 1 a 9.5 for gameplay and mechanics. Battlefront 2 a 9.2. So it's still really high because I definitely thought that they were great mechanics and stuff like that. No really flawless for the gameplay. I thought it was definitely great gameplay. So the next thing, and now this is probably going to be a really big part of this video, it is offline capabilities. So I bet you if you're a Battlefront player, you probably haven't played offline that much, because most people just play online. They just play online all the time. Like, nobody cares about offline. But personally, I don't have the Xbox Live Gold Pass, so all I do is play offline. So I think I would be the best person to tell you the offline capabilities. So here we go. Battlefront 2015. There's definitely a lot of online, offline capabilities. Still online, most of it, the game is online capabilities, but there's still some offline capabilities. So there are these things called survival missions, which are basically you and your partner, if you're lucky enough to have somebody to play with co-op or online co-op, and it's easier with co-op. You and your partner or yourself, you face off in basically kind of this wave. You face off, you play 2 rebels, and this basically kind of, it goes in waves. So the first wave, you have to take out X amount of Imperials, and then the second wave starts. And then there's a lot of strategy involved in this, like where to hide, what weapon to use, and when to get your drop pods. Because if you get a drop pod, if you stick to it, if you activate the drop pod and wait like 2 minutes or something, then when the drop pod opens, it will give you a bunch of power-ups, like maybe an extra bomb, maybe an extra shield or something like that. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of strategy on when to get your drop pods, when to hide, and when to fight. So those were really enjoyable to play in Battlefront 2015. They were a little hard sometimes, especially if you're on hard mode. Like, even I haven't played Battlefront 2015 in a while. I just did it to see the gameplay that's probably in the background right now. But in Battlefront 2015, if you're on master and hard mode, it's actually pretty hard. But my favorite offline capability of Battlefront 2015 is the Walker Assault offline. So I know most of you guys probably play online Walker Assault, but personally I really do like the offline Walker Assault. You play against the AI, you can play with your friend. One of you is on the light side, one of you is on the dark side, and it's really fun just turning on the uplinks, turning them off, kind of going back and forth. They're really fun to play, and I definitely enjoyed those. Now, Battlefront 2 is a totally different story. So Battlefront 2, it did not have like Walker Assault offline. It did not have survival missions. It did have something called arcade mode, which you play against the AI and stuff like that. But that's really it, until you factor in that there's literally a whole story mode that's offline. So yes, Battlefront 2017 has a whole story mode that is offline. So when I thought that there was no offline capabilities in Battlefront 2017, I was wrong. There's a whole story mode that you can play for free, and even a Resurrections campaign DLC, which is now free for everybody to play. So in the story, you play as Iden Versio after the Battle of Endor, who's first on the dark side, but then realizes that that's the wrong side, so then defects to the light side, and you play as her, trying to stop Operation Cinder, which is basically the Empire. They put a bunch of satellites above planets and stuff, which would then kind of create like an Armageddon, like a storm, and like a bunch of stuff like climate change, and then would destroy the planet and everybody on it. So that was definitely a very good story mode, and I feel that even though a couple people didn't like the story mode, I feel it was very good story mode, and definitely offline capabilities were definitely better in Battlefront 2. Too bad they didn't have Walker Assaults and stuff like that offline. They did have a Supremacy offline in Battlefront 2, which was pretty fun because I never got to play Supremacy, and I was anxious to see what it was. So if I had to give offline capabilities, I give Battlefront 1 a 9.3 and Battlefront 2 a 9.9 on 10. That's pretty much solid. They literally gave a whole story mode. It's a short story, but still, whole story mode and the online capabilities. This is a pretty packed game. So the next thing that we're going to be doing is diversity of maps, characters, etc. So basically, in Battlefront 1, it's a little limited because, first of all, this was EA's first experiment with actually doing more maps. Because the original Battlefronts from 2003, they were story, and obviously you can just, like, select what character you want to play as you played as set character and stuff like that. So, yeah, basically, the original Battlefront 2015, it only had characters from the original trilogy. So you can play as Boss, Boba Fett, Han, Leia, Luke, I don't know if Lando was in it, whatever. You can play as all those characters, a couple bounty hunters. There was a pretty big diversity at the time, but sadly, even though the original trilogies come out and The Force Awakens came out, there was no characters from any of those things, so it was a bit limited. There are a handful of planets, Tatooine, Tatooine, Endor. There's a handful of planets right there, but not as many as Battlefront 2. Now, Battlefront 2 is another different story again. So Battlefront 2 had from the original trilogy, the prequel trilogy, and they updated it for the sequel trilogy. So basically, any character you can name, even characters that are rare like BB-9E, which you probably don't even know who he is. He's basically the dark side equivalent of BB-8. They're all in this game. It amazed me when you see the menu and how detailed the characters look, like Darth Vader. His mask, they even changed it to update it. His mask, they made it look really cool, and they updated it for the Rise of Skywalker, like I said, so you can play as Kylo Ren with his cracked mask, Palpatine, all of them, Lando, BB-8, I don't know, it's really cool. And they even have a couple characters from the Clone Wars. Like, you can actually play as a Republic Commando from the Clone Wars and the Republic Commando video game, which really blew me away. I didn't even know you can do that. So that is a clear win for Battlefront 2 right there, which Battlefront 1 got an 8.4 for diversity of maps and characters, but Battlefront 2 got a 9.9, a solid 9.9. I can't just correct anything. That was pretty much perfect of what they've done. So the last category that we're going to be doing is enjoyability to play. Now, Battlefront 1, just all out, I've named everything, is just definitely a really enjoyable game to play. I can't really give you any examples, but you kind of have to play it for yourself. But just to give it a category, this is definitely a really enjoyable game to play. So it got a solid 9.8. Now, Battlefront 2. Battlefront 2, maybe not as good as the original in some ways. Maybe didn't sell as much copies as the original, but still, Battlefront 2 is another really enjoyable game to play. I can't give you any examples again, but you kind of have to play yourself. So it got a 9.7. No, just kidding, got a 9.8. Same. I ranked them both the same because they're just both. I can't say any one is more enjoyable to play than the other. I did like the story mode of Battlefront 2, but they definitely just both got the same thing. So now for the final thing, we've gone over all 5 aspects that I'm ranking it on. I've given each of them a number, so I've added up the average, and here we go. I'm going to start with Battlefront 1. So Battlefront 2015 got a 9.24 on 10. So good job, Battlefront 2015. That's impressive, most impressive, as Vader says. So pretty good, 9.24. Now, can Battlefront 2 top that? So here we go. Battlefront 2 got a 9.54. So, yep, I know you might have thought that Battlefront 2 was going to lose, Battlefront 1 was going to win, but somehow Battlefront 2 went through and has won by 0.1, which is actually really close. I honestly thought Battlefront 1 was going to kind of win. I actually really didn't know when I was doing the calculations, but Battlefront 2 won by 0.1. So, I did not see that coming.
You didn't see that coming?
But really, really close. So that definitely shows just both games are really good. And EA has done a great job of giving us 2 games that have been pretty good. So I'm hoping that eventually we will be getting a Battlefront 3. And maybe, who knows, maybe I'll compare a Battlefront 3 to this. Or we get a Battlefront 2 story mode, which would allow us to play as Ad Versio again. Because like I said, I keep mentioning this in the video, Battlefront 2 story mode was amazing. So if we got a Battlefront 2 story mode game, which would mean that we get to continue the adventures of Ad Versio, but an entire game based on the story mode, not just in addition to Battlefront 2, an entire game based on that. So this is my comparing of Battlefront 2015 versus Battlefront 2017. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and bye.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
So be it, Jedi.